All right, so I've already tried to do this video like 2 or 3 times. I've been trying so hard to record it, but I wanted to do my take on a like settings and tips video. It's not going to be anything different or anything crazy. I'm not giving like mind-bending advice or tips or anything like that. Just wanted to go ahead and do this. I've been wanting to do it for a long time, and I think now I've had a pretty good year playing wise. I'll go ahead and show this. I mean, the season I'm hitting 556. I'm 10-1. I have an under 2 ERA. So I'm not trying to brag. I just think I want to give a little bit of credentials so you guys don't think I'm just like an idiot, and you're getting advice from a nobody. But we'll go ahead and start in the settings screen. You have to be using zone. If you're not using zone, you're gonna lose. You're just putting yourself at a giant disadvantage. The only complaint I see a lot of people have is that it's like super inconsistent. They get screwed on bad swings. You get screwed on anything in any mode in this game. It just happens. It's just baseball, and it's the game. Don't worry about it. Sensitivity, I haven't really played with too much. I think I started the year with it like kind of midway, but I do use a P-ring. I use one gray P-ring on the left stick, and I use an old beat up Edge Control Freak that I've had for like 3 years. I just use bat cyan at about 50%, what I think this is. I just like to count from here, so like 190, 70, 60, 50%. No fade out. Guess pitch doesn't really matter. Base running, I use analog select. I think a lot of guys do. The only other one I've seen people use is like using the D-pad, which I don't necessarily recommend. This is kind of just like a preset for Road to the Show and all those kinds of things. I set it on competitive, so it doesn't, I don't have to adjust a bunch of stuff. I have it on All-Star Hall of Fame. It changes all the time. Auto warm-up, yes, please have it on. This I like to have just if I feel like, if I've never used a guy and I like want to throw a pitch with him just to see what it's like. It's not that common. Please turn the shift off. Just turn the shift off. You're going to hurt yourself way more than you're going to help yourself. It's not worth it. People are going to make fun of you for it. Don't do it, please. All this really not important. I use strike zone to hit, and the hitting depth of field, I think, is probably my favorite change they've made this year, or not change, but addition to the game this year. For me personally, I have pretty bad ADHD, and it's helped me a ton because there's a lot of stadiums that I just stopped playing at because I was getting so distracted, even when there wasn't that much going on. I use dynamic in play view. I like to see bombs, and I feel like it helps my base running a lot. I can't base run with any of the other views. I've tried it. Doesn't work. Pitching view, I like to be on strike zone high. I want to be close, but not too close, not as close as I am when I'm hitting. It just makes my head hurt. And I think it's pretty balanced. Strike zone 2 just feels weird to me. 3 is just odd, and I don't like any of the other ones. And I don't like the pitching angles because it's tough to see when runners go. Fielding view high, it just gives you the best view of the field. It's the best one to use, I think. A lot of this isn't really important. Pitch history, I like to use pitcher handedness. It's just on a bit of custom settings. I did not know you could turn this off. I did not know that. You just saw me learn that in this video. I did not know that was a setting you could turn off. I'm going to turn that off because that's awesome, actually. Volume, it's whatever you want. Accessibility, this is also preference. I like vibration off because the biggest thing I've seen is when I'm pitching, when I go to around the edges, it shakes obviously, and it makes it kind of tough for me to really get on the corners and be precise. So that's just me, and then all this isn't important. So now we'll go ahead and jump over to practice. All right, so practice mode is, it can either help you a ton or hurt you a ton. I've seen a ton of people make mistakes in practice in the way of how they approach it. For me, practice should really only be used when you are absolutely sucking at one category. When you like literally cannot hit the ball at certain difficulties or off certain guys. I'm not saying that I don't recommend practice ever. I just don't. It's not going to save you, is what I'm saying. But it will certainly help, and it's just a good way to see certain guys if you've never seen them before. Yeah, that's really it. Hitting wise, I'll go ahead. I typically like to use, and I like to face guys that are either on my team or I'm going to see a lot. So hitters I like to use that are always on my team. So guys like, Lindor, or a guy like Tatis maybe. So in this, I'll go ahead and use Cal just cause, and we'll go ahead and face Shohei, because he has, pretty meta mix. We're going to single out his 2 best pitches, and I'm just going to go ahead and set this for anywhere in the zone. And then the difficulty, I'm going to put on Hall of Fame because it's the one I play on the most. And so here, approach-wise, we're really just trying to take away anything out over the middle. Take away is probably the wrong word. We're just looking to hit anything over the middle hard. A big thing that I've adopted a lot more recently is taking pitches early in counts, especially in ranked and events, because it's just not worth it to swing at a pitch that's nowhere near you want it. We don't want to be getting out on the first like 2 pitches of an at bat. It just doesn't help us at all. It does no good. And everybody I've seen has a little bit of a hitch with their PCI right before the ball is coming. It's different for everybody, and I didn't even know I had one, but mine is I like to move it a little bit down and in. I do it with everybody. It's just a bit of a short timing mechanism in my head. I do a bit of like a waggle around, and then I kind of lock it in, move it down a little bit, just to get some kind of pacing, keep myself in rhythm a tad. It's tough to do sometimes. So when we're looking at a guy like Shohei, who you're going to face a lot of sinkers and sliders, this card doesn't have outlier. I don't think he has outlier on his WBC or Live Series card. I may be wrong. But, obviously we're going to be looking for his best pitches. And by that, I mean, it's not like we're only looking at sinkers and sliders. It's just we have to protect the areas that are going to get thrown to the most. So, a sinker, we'd probably be looking up and in, or he's just going to throw right down the middle and swing and miss. We'd be looking up and in, down away, up away, and then sliders, kind of anywhere. But to kind of tail off of taking pitches, if it's really early in the count, or if it's like 2-0 or 2-1, and he throws me a slider or a curveball or just a pitch in a window I'm not looking at, I'm just not going to swing, because I know it's easy to get impatient in this, and I know a lot of people will advise you to take until 2 in a lot of modes. I do not recommend that personally. I just don't think, especially if they throw like 2 meatballs, I just don't think there's any reason in making yourself sit there and just watch pitches down the middle. And if you do want to do that, come into practice. Go into practice and sit here and take strikes all day. You can come in here and take infinite strikes. But I just don't think it's worth it to do it in a game or, something you're trying to take serious. I just don't think there's much benefit to it. But I don't know. Share your thoughts on that below. I'm curious what you guys think. But yeah, I mean, hitting is interesting because my favorite saying is, when I hit, I don't want to be thinking. I want to be thinking about the fact that I'm not thinking. I just, I really want to be dialed in. I tell people all the time, they're like, oh, you were sitting in that, weren't you? I don't really sit pitches. I don't really like sit on certain pitches like in a super specific spot. I just kind of hunt like windows. So if I'm sitting right here, it could be a sinker or a slider, or down in it could be a sinker or a slider, and I'm gonna hit it because I just want the pitch in that location, and I feel like I'm good at adjusting. This is probably a little more prevalent again, same handed matchup, excuse me. So we'll do O'Hearn, and we'll do another lefty with we'll do Morion. We'll do sinker cutter here. I've always found that it's a lot easier to start out and adjust in than set your PCI and adjust out. I have anchoring turned off. That was the thing I forgot to touch on in the settings portion. But if you're gonna start your PCI anywhere, which I do recommend a little bit, just to kind of give yourself a little breathing room on this part of the plate, as I will always recommend starting in and trying to move out rather than starting out and moving in, because like if I'm trying to look out here for like a slider or something and I get to sinker in, I'm going to be in a lot more trouble than if I just sit my PCI in here and I get a slider away, because I can track it a little bit better. And I always kind of recommend having a little bit of an idea of where their arm slot is, and it's a lot easier to track it like that. So a guy like Morion, he's kind of 3/4 heavy sinker, good slider, pitches with a lot of depth. I'm not necessarily going to be sitting at the top of the zone a ton, like I would with a guy with a really like high ride fastball, like Randy or something like that, or like a Pedro. So it's just a lot easier to sit in these quadrants of the zone, and even the CPU, and I have it selected all in. It's throwing tough pitches, because naturally the kind of pitches he throws are going to want to gravitate to a tougher spot. Let's see if I can piece one here. No, I gotta get one. I gotta prove myself that I'm allowed to talk about what I'm talking about. Okay, we got one. All right, now I want to touch on pitching. I personally take a lot of pride in my pitching. I think it's a lot more important than a lot of people think, and I don't think people utilize pitching enough because there's a lot of situations in games where, you know, it's kind of a home run derby going back and forth, and I win those games because the one inning that I throw up a zero saves everything. And it's because it's very important to know how to pitch in clutch spots, or how to pitch in certain situations, or what to throw to certain guys, or how to read swings. So I want to give a walkthrough of all of that. My first thing that I want to talk about pitching wise is staying away from slam spots. I'll go back to hitting for this for 1 second. Slam spots are anywhere in the zone where my PCI can slam to. So like when I'm looking at a pitch or whatever, my PCI will just slam there. Like it can't go any farther than this. This is the boundary of where it can go. And it's really easy to slam because, you know, you could panic on a pitch or something, you know, something could happen. So we want to stay away from, we want to try to stay away from anywhere on the edge typically. In certain situations it's okay, like in certain counts, or, you know, if the guy's not very good, or I don't think he's gonna, you know, if I don't think he can adjust like that. But I've had a lot of instances of facing people where I've been pitching really well and I throw 1 or 2 pitches to a slam spot, and, you know, they just get lucky with their PCI and they throw it over there and they get an early homer or something like that. We don't want that to happen. We want to make them take good swings. So like a pitch like this looks like it's right over the middle, but it's away from the slam spot. I throw this all the time and I get so many swings and misses because even though it's such a small difference, that could be the difference. This is a pop out or this is a bomb. And you know, the same thing for off speeds. Like, sorry, that's not off speed. This could be a single and this can be an out, or this could be a single and this could be an out. It's just trying to stay away from the edges. And a lot of the time I say that, but I'll do it because on analog I feel like I have a really good feel for it and I'm able to kind of guide it away from the corners. So like I could even start this, it looks like I'm trying to throw this pitch right here and I could just flick it off the edge a little bit, or that was a strike in that case. Or even just like this, like if I want to throw this pitch in, I can flick it a little more down. And I kind of forgot to touch on that too. I personally use pure analog, and one reason I kind of just refuse to learn pinpoint, it's really tough for it's just tough for me to get. And I like analog. I've been using it a super long time. But yeah, that's my biggest advice pitching wise, is just really try to stay off the black. There's always certain situations where you can get away with it. Like if one of my favorite pitches to throw is an opposite-handed fastball down and in right on the black. That's not on the black, but anywhere in this region, I get a lot of takes on this. Like this pitch specifically, it's probably taken because it's a ball. But that's always a safe pitch to throw. I like a lot of front hip and backdoor breaking balls. That's one of my favorite pitches to throw. This umpire is tight. But a lot of pitches like that, and it's also just about not pitching scared. It's never a bad idea to throw something your opponent probably isn't expecting, like, you know, kind of a stupid pitch like a 3-2 changeup up or something like that. But you know, all of those are kind of testy because they can be a little predictable too, because a lot of people try to get too cute, and that's also kind of what we want to try to avoid. But that's all I got. I'm sorry if this felt a little rushed. I just really want to get this video out. I hope it helps a little bit. Leave any questions or, you know, opinions you may have about settings or certain things that I talked about in the comments. And I look forward to seeing all the feedback. I appreciate you guys. I'll catch you in the next one.